Today on In the Woodyard, you're going to see some fire. We're going to burn some stuff that's not normal. You're going to see some scenes from Wyoming. We're going to talk about the trees out there. There's a lot of ponderosa pine. That's what we saw a lot of, especially in the mountains. But down the river valleys, like down on the right side of the road right here, there's a bunch of cottonwood, which is their state tree, and there's a lot of cottonwood. There's not a lot of variety. There's cottonwood, ponderosa pine, and some type of willow tree. We didn't know exactly what it was. And then the other one we saw a lot of, you're going to see coming up in a little bit here, is Russian olive. And there's a lot of that, and it's a very invasive species. Now this is going through the Bighorn Mountains. Beautiful, beautiful area. If you ever get a chance to go through there, go up over the Bighorns, past 10 Sleep. Beautiful, beautiful. It's one of my favorite places in the lower 48. Alaska has it beat by 11. This is a nice place. Excellent, excellent scenery. So here's what we drove past. You can see out there, it's almost all ponderosa pine, especially up in the hills. And then down in the valley, you can see there's some cottonwoods and things like that. Now the trees are big, the cottonwoods. Ponderosa pines were average size, not super huge. They're not West Coast big, but straight as straight can be. When we were driving along, we were just noticing how straight the trees are. We saw 3 different firewood businesses there. One had a cord king, and the name of his business was something about fine pine firewood. All he had was pine. That was it, 100% pine. It was a big operation. Another guy had all pine, and he had a Easton-made 48C. And another guy, he had another business we saw with lots of firewood, and he was cutting off of pallet forks, just lifting and using a chainsaw. Now this is typical of what we saw a lot. Farmers would leave a lot of these cottonwoods like this in bunches, basically for shade for the cattle. You can see this is an area where all the cattle would go underneath to get out of the sun because it was hot quite often there. We had a lot of days in the 90s. Nothing straight on the cottonwoods, but a big, big shade area. And then we saw a lot of this. This is the Russian olive. From what I understand, it's an invasive species. There's a lot of it. It doesn't grow really tall. It's a very bushy tree. It's a very picky tree, a very thorny tree. You can see the little olives on there. The deer, wildlife, the cows just love it. They eat it like crazy. It's just everywhere, and the farmers hate it. So they bulldoze a lot of it into piles. You're going to see some of that coming up here real soon. I did check the wood. We brought a chunk of it back, and I'm going to do a video on it sometime, burning it. And they did check. It's very good firewood. It is similar to oak. It has produces 23 million BTUs. So it's a very, very good firewood. Other than that, it would be hard to cut because it's so thorny. Now here's a pasture. If you look out across there, that's all Russian olive. And like I said, the farmers will bulldoze that from time to time just to open it up for grazing for the cattle, because this is a river valley we're in, and it was a lot of Russian olive. I mean, there'd be miles and miles of it. And then there's areas where we used to deer hunt that it was excellent deer hunting because there was so much cover with the Russian olive, and then they would bulldoze it, and then they'd plant crops, a lot of alfalfa, and then we'd lose a hunting spot. Here's typical of what we would see. A lot of the river bottoms like this right here, it's all willow and cottonwood. That's what we saw a lot of. And I don't know, somebody said there's 2 kinds of cottonwood. It's like a bigger leaf one, similar to what we have here in Wisconsin and Midwest. And then another one that's more of a smaller leaf. You're going to see that coming up a little bit. But also there's some type of a bigger willow tree. We saw a lot of that. That's what we see a lot of fields like that of alfalfa all over the place. This is, again, typical of what we would see. They have drainage ditches. They run everywhere for irrigation. And it's done where they just irrigate the fields with gravity, where they divert the water with pipes, and it just flows out across. The water flows downhill, and it's very evenly graded so that it drains down. Here's the little willow trees. I don't know what this is. Some type of a willow. Somebody said it's some type of a cottonwood, but to me it looked more like willow. This is the tree I'm in. I'm hunting out of this one. Actually, I shot a deer out of this tree. Right here's the woods that I look over. You can see those piles of brush. Those are Russian olive trees that they have pushed up. There's another one to the right there. So they push it up. That's alfalfa field out to the right there. And then the thicker woods, which they haven't cut down or bulldozed yet, that's cottonwood and like a willow tree that I'm in. There's another spot I hunted, cottonwoods there, and then this is the willow tree I was sitting in. You can see the bark right there. Some kind of a willow. I'm not sure exactly what it is. And then there's a tree right next to it that was also a willow tree. And then down, if you look on the inside, look at all the Russian olive, and they're invasive. And there's some brush piles they had pushed up in there, and they basically want to get rid of them. They do not want the Russian olive trees, and you can see all down in there. Now, we did make some fires, and this is what we used for fire starter. The sage right here, when it dies off, underneath you can see the branches, and then right over to the side there was a dead one. And listen to this. That is some crunchy stuff. Some of the best fire starter I've ever used. Every bit as good as any kind of small branch that you would get underneath a spruce tree or a balsam fir or anything like that. You could just wad it up and light a match to it, and it would take right off. So it's kind of like a cross between a bush and grass. I don't know how to describe it. And the stuff that's like finger size, like I broke off there, burns very easily, so it made very good firewood. Now, when we had our fires, you're going to see coming up, you just reach in and just break it off. So excellent fire starter. Our fires, I took out one of my smokeless stoves, so we had fires almost every night. It was awesome. I did take along a whole bunch of wood. We had a bunch of different kinds. We had some maple and some ash and stuff like that. Here's a chunk of cottonwood that we found. We would pick up wood places. We would find it laying around because people would just leave it at campsites, and we would burn it. So there we got some burning the cottonwood with the rest of it here. And then we'd burn something else we had never burned before. I'd never burned it. Maybe some of you have. Look at this. Cow pies. They were everywhere. Dry as can be. And we thought, what the heck? Let's see how they burn. So we put them on the fire, and all I can say is that it burns. Didn't last nearly as long as a chunk of wood would, but they do burn very well. And once they get going, they glow pretty good. The only bad thing we found out is it does not smell very good. It has an odor. It's basically burning crap, which is what it was. And then we also found some horse apples, because there's horses everywhere out there. And so I found some dried horse apples, and they burn really good too. So basically it's just, it's grass. So we came up with some names, and we were thinking if we could package this and sell it for fire starters, because it does burn pretty good. And from what I remember from my history is that when the settlers went out west, they did burn a lot of buffalo chips and cow chips and horse apples and things like that. So here we're at the campfire here. We're going to come up with some names, what we're going to call this stuff.
Sun-dried organic flame starter.
It helps climate change or some shit.
Yep. What should we call it?
Sun-dried organic fire starter. I don't know.
Oh. Sun-dried cow shit. Nice.
Sun-dried organic flame starter.
Smell to it.
So there we had it burning pretty good. This was probably after 15 minutes or so. So it does hold the flame pretty good. Not as good as a chunk of wood, but not too shabby actually. It burns pretty darn nice. And then here's some of the chunks of wood that we brought out. I did bring out I probably had 1/6 of a cord of wood, and we used every stick of it. We also found some more. So we had a lot of great campfires because it would cool down every night. So there you go. That was our trip to Wyoming fire-wise.